The Exorcist Believer. Now, Exorcist Believer is the next sequel in the line of Exorcist movies, the same way that the Disney trilogy is a sequel to Star Wars movies. Same surface level ideas and fun, but none of the ideological depth or character. It starts with atheist father and atheist mother back when they were happy, holy, and expecting a baby. As always in these movies, the directors, God, sends an earthquake in to wreck everyone's day, causing a big issue. The doctors can save your wife or your daughter. Now choose. Fast forward 13 years, an atheist father is living a good life with his daughter. He might be a little too busy for his daughter, I suppose. It's kinda hard to tell since we only get like half a day with the two before everything happens, and they seem to get along well. Anyway, atheist girl takes her friend, religious girl, into the woods one day to hold a seance. They want to contact atheist mother. Of course, they wind up vanishing for 3 days and get possessed by Pazuzu, but it was a nice shot. Once the girls returned and are checked out, they start showing some weird behaviors. Creeping around the house at night without a sound, picking up the Bible with your feet, ripping your nails out, screaming about the body and the blood during church, etc., etc., etc. After trying out 2 doctors and a shrink, atheist dad finally gets help from the experts. Chris, the mother from the original Exorcist movie, has been studying exorcisms ever since that moment, in an attempt to figure out what she saw. She's here to, be a cameo? Say she isn't an exorcist, then immediately try a half-baked exorcism, only to get her eyes stabbed out. Great cameo, Chris! Seriously, the only plot-worthy thing she does is get atheist dad to accept his daughter is possessed, and to have an exorcism. Not the religious family that is actually tied to the plot of this story, but I guess we need to have that cameo. And so the exorcism begins, performed by a single spiritual lady, a lady that was going to be a nun but decided not to, and the rest of the family and friends surrounding these 2 girls. Where is the church and the professional exorcists? Apparently, they have lost their faith, as even with the tons of evidence, a pastor and a witness both vouching for these girls, they still decide it isn't worth their time. So now we have 10 people all standing around these girls as the 2 religious people prance around like monkeys, unsure of what they have to do. The 2 girls constantly talk about all the personal issues of those present, and everyone just interacts with the demon, telling them to shut up, simply freezing and stop doing the exorcism, trying to reach the girls behind the evil demon, or other such various interferences. As the first movie states,
especially important is the warning to avoid conversations with the demon. We may ask what is relevant, but anything beyond that is dangerous. So don't listen. Remember that. Do not listen.
And I do find a one-liner with Chris very funny, saying she wasn't allowed in the exorcism because of the patriarchy of the priesthood. Yes, she actually uses the word patriarchy. But this movie clearly shows why she wasn't allowed in. Because you can't interact with the demon in any way, like every single person in this movie decides they need to do. This bodes very well for the girls, I'm sure. Exorcist Believer does start off well, though. Watching atheist dad get crushed and losing his faith, and the first few scenes of the girls as they are possessed. The issues arise after atheist dad decides to place his daughter in a mental asylum. Instead of seeing the girls do their depraved and horrifying acts now, they mostly stare at you creepily and say things either creepy or things that they shouldn't know about. While it is kind of creepy the first few times, the girls don't do a whole lot beyond this. This makes the exorcism when it's being performed less interesting. While it is a lot of screaming and visuals and sounds, they don't accomplish much. Just add to the atmosphere, which tends to turn comical, as we see every single person in this exorcism doing things they shouldn't be. All because the church has their robes in a twist and decides not to help the obviously very in-need people. Not to mention the only meaningful character development we get, Atheist Father, is wasted, turned into a single sentence and 2 flashbacks. The entire reason the original Exorcist is still so scary and horrifying is watching this little girl go from so innocent to completely deranged. And then when the exorcism does finally start, with the experts, mind you, the demon does absolutely everything in its power to freak them out and get them to stop. Unlike in this movie, where all the demon has to do is poke you a little bit, and you get so upset or concerned that you completely stop what you are doing. And as comical as the original movie's exorcism can probably be seen in hindsight,
the power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
it still never steps on the toes of the actual horrifying imagery and effects used. This movie truly had all the pieces to be better. Atheist father losing his faith before his daughter becomes possessed, a religious family having a possessed daughter, yet doing absolutely nothing in the movie. They are just there to be witnesses and help everyone else screw up the exorcism. The idea of choosing someone to live and to die, whether that is between both possessed girls or between a mother and a baby. The best way I can describe this movie is fear. Fear of pushing itself as far as the original did. Fear of pushing itself beyond horror movie cliches. Fear of being something truly great, and fear of Pazuzu. It truly is a big meh of a movie.